Albert Ellis is considered by many to be the grandfather of cognitive behavioral therapy. He is also recognized as being one of the most influential psychotherapists in history. He is best known as the creator of the rational emotive behavioral therapy, which focuses on the assumption that each of us holds a unique set of assumptions about ourselves and our world, and that these assumptions guide us through life and determine our reactions to the various situations we encounter. As stated in a 2004 article by George Holizos from the Australasian Psychiatry Journal entitled In Conversation with Dr. Albert Ellis, at the age of 5, in an attempt to self-heal, Ellis began developing and employing techniques which would later become part of his rational emotive behavior therapy. According to the website psychologistanywhereanytime.com, Ellis, who was born September 17, 1913 in Pennsylvania, described himself as a sickly child. He suffered through numerous health problems throughout his youth. He was hospitalized 8 times during the ages of 5 and 7, with one of these lasting nearly a year. Throughout the time spent in the hospital, Ellis's parents rarely visited him and provided little or no emotional support. It was during this time that Ellis has been quoted as saying in the Holizos article that he was anxious and somewhat depressed when his parents did not show up regularly at the hospital. He did not want to be miserable or anxious, so he decided he would not feel miserable and began to use the rationality he had learned about through his extensive reading of philosophy while he was in the hospital. Ellis says by doing so, he was able to undisturb himself out of his anxiety. In 1943, Ellis obtained a Master's of Arts in Clinical Psychology from Columbia University and started practicing in the areas of marriage, family, and sex therapy. Ellis was interested in the theories of Sigmund Freud and sought out additional training in psychoanalysis. In 1947, he completed his PhD in clinical psychology from Columbia University. According to PsychologistAnywhereAnytime.com, shortly after earning his doctorate, Ellis began a personal analysis program of supervision with Richard Holbeck, whose own analysis had been Hermann Rorschach. It was during this time that Ellis began to make his break with psychoanalysis, and by January of 1953, he began to call himself a rational therapist. He began advocating a new, more active, and more directive type of psychotherapy, which in 1955 became known as rational therapy. Ellis's rational therapy required that the therapist help the client to understand that the client's own personal philosophy contains beliefs that lead to their own emotional pain. His approach stressed actively working to change a client's self-defeating beliefs and behaviors by helping them identify their irrationalities. He related everything to the core irrational beliefs such as, I must be perfect and I must be loved by everyone. He believed that through rational analysis, people can understand their errors in light of the core irrational beliefs and then begin to construct a more rational position. During the next 40 years, Dr. Ellis's approach began to be widely recognized throughout the world of psychology. In 2007, after a series of surgeries and a lingering case of pneumonia, at the age of 94, Dr. Ellis passed away. During his life, he published more than 800 scientific papers, authored or edited over 75 books and monographs, and produced more than 200 audio and video cassettes. As previously mentioned, Albert Ellis is best remembered for his rational emotive behavior therapy. Ellis's therapy focused on the belief that rational emotive behavior could help people think more rationally, feel less anxious, depressed, and enraged when they fail or got rejected. He believes that it's never the things that happen to you that upsets you, it's your view of them. With this type of therapy, not only does the therapist give the client unconditional acceptance, but he or she also teaches the client how to give it to themselves. In essence, the irrational emotive behavior theory holds that people are primarily responsible for their feelings about themselves, others, and the environment, and that they ultimately have the choice whether they want to let these events disturb them or not. According to Ellis in Holizos' interview, all people are born with self-defeating tendencies, and when something happens that goes against our goals, values, or desires, We have the option of feeling a healthy emotion, such as feeling sorry, disappointed, or frustrated, or we can choose to make ourselves feel terrified, panicked, depressed, or anxious. Ellis also believes that there are three basic demands that lead to most of what we call neurotic behavior. These three basic demands include I must do well, you must treat me well, and things must be easy. The first demand focuses on the belief that I must do well and be loved by people or I am no good. This leads to depression, terror, self-doubting, and feelings of inadequacy. The second demand states that people absolutely must treat me kindly, nobly, and considerably, or they are worthless and no good. This demand creates anger and rage. The third demand states, the conditions under which I live in the environment must absolutely be better than they are. They must give me exactly what I want and never really deprive me. This demand leaves us feeling horrible, terrible, and awful when the conditions around us are not the way we think they should be. As stated by Ellis in Holozal's article, there are several additional common irrational assumptions that we have. These include the idea that one should be thoroughly competent at everything, the idea that it is catastrophic when things are not the way you want them to be, the idea that people have no control over their own happiness, the idea that you need someone stronger than yourself to be dependent on, the idea that your past history greatly influences your present life, and the idea that there is a perfect solution to human problems and it's a disaster if you don't find it. According to rebtnetwork.org, clinical experience and a growing supply of experimental evidence have shown that Ellis's rational emotive behavior therapy is effective and efficient at reducing emotional pain. When Albert Ellis created the theory back in the 1950s, he had met with much resistance from others in the mental health field. Little did he know that one day his rational emotive behavior therapy would become one of the most widely practiced therapies throughout the world. Even Dr. Ellis himself did not see how his therapy would have had such a profound impact on the field of psychotherapy or on the lives of the millions of people who have benefited from it.